Welcome to the Tectonic Studies Group at 50 celebratory meeting. This meeting has been some time in the planning and been postponed several times. But here we are at the start of 2021 in the Tectonic Studies Group's first ever virtual meeting. Welcome. We're going to spend the afternoon in a bit of a time warp, looking back at the different aspects of TSG through the past 50 years. And we're going to end with a future look to where the Tectonic Studies Group might go. So it's going to be a bit of a time warp. It's just a jump to the left. So those 50 years of history started with some key players and some key people, and those ideas and the spirit of the Tectonic Studies Group community was taken on by others, and what evolved has been a really quite a unique community of structural geologists, quite UK-centred, but with international collaborations and experiences across the years. Of course, some of our members and some of our community are no longer with us, but we celebrate their work and the work of others. So we're going to look back at some of the bandwagons, some of the history, strain, D5s, inversion. But we're also going to remember some of the important bits. And for me, one of the most important bits about the Tectonic Studies Group is the community, that networking experience and being together and sharing science. And it is a real shame that we haven't managed to come together this year physically, but the virtual conference does bring new opportunities. So I put up this little excerpt from a letter between Sue Tragus, and it was a letter sent to Ken Macleay in 1990. And it talks of having to pay for damage to the Christmas tree. Presumably this damage occurred at a TSG dinner. But these are some of these anecdotes that people have shared with me. Sue Tragus, John Ramsey, Richard Lyle, John Platt add to this kind of wealth of experience and community. So from damaged Christmas trees to loo roll decorated ancient pines at Oxford to fun anecdotes from field trips, and of course the many Irish parties that the Tectonic Studies Group is rather famous for. So although we're UK based, we have made quite an influence on global structural geology and tectonics. And GISMail, the Geotectonics mailing group, is just one of those examples. So it started off as a TSG kind of mailing group, and it's grown globally and has people all over the world on that email distribution list. And I've got a picture of John Worley here, who ran it and for many, many years, and last year passed it on to Dave McCarthy and Simon Oldfield. TSG was also very influential in scientific publishing. Again, that letter between Sue Tragus and Ken Macleay. Here Sue talks of, remember the TSG when Paul Hancock proposed starting the Journal of Structural Geology? He didn't get a very enthusiastic response. Paul Hancock edited the journal for many years, as did Sue Tragus, and it has really been a cornerstone of much of the scientific publishing on structural geology globally. The Tectonic Studies Group, of course, held many, many specialist meetings, particularly in the 1980s. So not just an annual general meeting, but multiple other meetings. And many of these were then written up into some of the Geological Society's special publications. So the Tectonic Studies Group was generating and publishing research. And of course, that continues today in an ever-changing publication world. So members of the structural geology community are involved in Earth Archive and are also leading on a new open access diamond journal, which has just been called Tectonica. And you'll find out more about that in the AGM. So you'll notice that in many of those early pictures, there was a lot of men, and a lot of white men. And TSG has matured, it has moved on, and we've now had 3 female chairs in the history of TSG. And I want to highlight Sue Tragus here on the left. So Sue was chair of TSG in 1993 and 1994. She was actually, I guess, maybe I didn't realise it at the time, but influential for me as I was an undergraduate at that time. And then it wasn't until 20 years later when Zoe took on chair as TSG, and then I subsequently followed. So 3 female chairs of TSG. We've also made strides to think about diversifying more generally. TSG was the first specialist group, as far as I'm aware, to offer creche support for attendees of TSG. And Alidi Bubek and Natalie Farrell authored this great report on gender diversity and equality at Tectonic Studies Group meetings between 2007 and 2019. So, you know, really important steps forward for our Tectonic Studies Group. And of course, diversity doesn't end with gender. And I don't sit here in my black in geoscience t-shirt unpurposefully. There is a lot more that we can do to increase the diversity of both the subject area, people researching in it, and TSG as a community. So when I look out, if you can look out from Zoom, when I look out, I'm looking towards the younger generation, and to ask you to think about where you want the community to go, how you can improve the equality, diversity and inclusion into structure and tectonics. I think we'll find out later on what where it can go and what a key role it might have to play in the future. And it is a really good career. So TSG at 50. This afternoon, we're going to hear from some members of our community about the history, and then we're going to kind of come forward towards the present day and future looking. I'm not going to name all of these people just now, but I'll thank all of them for their input and their thoughts and ideas, and for working together. So I asked people to work in groups to fully represent the community and to try and get that diversity in voice and opinion. So thank you to all of them for taking on that challenge at what is really quite a difficult time. So without much further ado, enjoy the afternoon, enjoy looking back at the history, enjoy chatting later in the beer session with old friends. Welcome new people and new colleagues. This is one of the biggest TSGs in many years. We have about 300 people registered, and of course it's much more international than one of our normal UK-based meetings. So welcome people, show them this TSG spirit. And if you can join us this evening, if you've already signed up, we have a public lecture led by Ian Stewart with panelists again from the TSG community, looking at the role of geology and particularly structural geology in a changing world. And I think it's really apt that we're celebrating the 50 years with this public lecture and a view towards how geoscience and particularly structural geology can help in some of society's great challenges. So enjoy the afternoon and enjoy the rest of the Tectonic Studies Group annual general meeting.